Hey guys, welcome back to Impact Dynamics. My name is Rusty and we are set for the next Q&A video. Now, a massive thanks to everyone who commented or liked or shared the last one because we had a big response to it. It was awesome. Massive thanks to the questions that came through. They're actually going to make up majority of the questions in this video. If you think of a question partway through or you're wanting extra clarification on anything, drop it down in the comments below and we'll cover it in the next one. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit subscribe and the little bell so you get notified when new videos come up on this channel. If you are that way inclined and you do like what we do, jump on over to the Patreon page. You can see the link in the description or at the end of the video. And if you want to support us in that manner, there's a bunch of extra little benefits that you get for doing so. That would be fantastic. All right, let's roll it. If I was to sum up the questions I had from the last video, I could do so in 3 letters. PRS. PRS. PRS questions everywhere. I had a similar sort of grouping of questions that basically came under the topic of, how do I get involved with PRS? How do I get into PRS and shooting your first match? Second vote for how to get involved with PRS matches. It's a common question and it's a fair question. Now, my initial reaction to these questions are, well, you sign up to the shoot and then you go along and shoot it. That's how you get involved. But I totally get that that is not an entirely useful, although it's not a wrong, answer to this question. And often this question comes from, I need to know more, I need to know what stuff I need to square away before I go to a PRS match. Let me justify my first reaction though. You learn so much by doing it, by going to a match and shooting and missing and hitting. And the people that you meet are really helpful and friendly and will lend you stuff, give you advice, do what they can to get you hitting targets. So it's actually not a bad way to do it. And go back a few years, that's how we all sort of got started, is just doing it. However, if I needed to give you a list of, let's say, 5 things to get covered before your first national level match, here they are in no particular order. I say that, but the first one is probably the most important. 1. Be able to shoot. You don't have to be able to shoot well, but you do need to be able to shoot reasonably accurately. Shooting groups of 1 to 1.5 inches at 100 meters, it's probably not going to win your matches, but you will be able to hit some targets. If you want to work on that and bring that down, work on your fundamentals. That will improve that group size and will have long-lasting effect no matter what gun you are using. Things like breathing, trigger pull, follow through, all that sort of stuff. Work on those fundamentals. They will have the biggest impact on your shooting. 2, your data. Have data to 500-600 meters. Some of the matches in Australia are starting to creep further out. That's fine. But if you're working on 500 or 600 meters and you know what you need to do to put a round on target at those distances, that will get you most of the way there. I suggest you use a ballistics app to calculate that data based off the information you source from your setup currently. That will get you data, confirm that data, learn that data, ability to dial and understand the environmentals. If you're able to hit targets consistently at 200, 300, 400, 500 meters, that will set you up well for PRS. 3, get in and out of position comfortably and safely. There's no point spending big money to get to a competition only to, on your first stage, swing your barrel in the wrong direction and you are out because you didn't practice getting in and out of position. It's a very simple thing to work on that you don't have to be at the gun range to do. Common position we use in PRS is port arms position. We have the rifle pointed up over your shoulder like that, across your body. That is how you'll start a lot of stages. You'll find matches where you'll start every stage like that. If you can take from that position and build a kneeling, standing, prone position, and then move from that position into one of those other ones, and you can do that in a reasonable amount of time, ensuring the barrel is always pointed down range or directly up, you will enjoy your PRS match. Now don't get me wrong, take the time to build your position. Good solid position will get you hits on target. But there's a big difference of doing that the first time on the clock to have practiced it previously and know how to build a position in a reasonable amount of time. It's amazing how much just a little bit of time, let's say spend an hour building from port arms down to prone and up to kneeling position and off to a standing position. Taking the time to do that, amazing how quickly that will bring the amount of time you spend doing so down. So when you are under pressure, under the clock, you do it a lot more comfortably. 4. This one may actually seem silly and ridiculous, I would say this, but I've seen it bring shooters unstuck so many times, especially on ranges that have the 30-second hang fire rule. Make sure your magazine feeds. That's right. Make up some dummy rounds or do it at the range and cycle that through. Just cycle. Make sure you get your 10 rounds out clean, 11 rounds out, and 8 rounds out, whatever your magazine is set up to hold. Cycle it through, make sure those rounds are going in and out nice and smoothly. Put a little bit of pressure on the front of the magazine as though you're pushing into a barricade. See if it still feeds comfortably. I learned that one the hard way. Sounds silly that your magazine should feed, right? Of course it would. I've seen it effectively wipe shooters out of the match. They do that on a stage, maybe 2, and then they get disheartened and they can't regain their focus. 5. This one's a little different. This one might actually be at your first match, prior, while you're watching a match, or as a stage officer with a match. Either way, the tip is to take notes. Write down where you messed up, where you saw 6 shooters in a row mess up. Learn from their mistakes. It's a good way to do it. It's much cheaper as well. After shooting your first PRS match, and if you have been good enough to take notes, you'll end up with a list of things to tackle. This is your list of how to improve. The guys who just go straight out and first thing they do is shoot a PRS match will end up with a big list of things to work on. It's not a silly way to do it because at least you now know where to work on. That list will guide your training. Look for some key areas that could require a little bit of tweaking to get some more impacts. Put some focus on there and you'll see results pretty quickly. Then perhaps tackle some of the bigger issues. Take notes. It'll help immensely. A follow-up question from JC actually on his original question about how to get involved. I was wondering, is it better to join a club first, or are all matches open to all skill levels? Do we need to register prior to the day? Stuff like that. Great question. Specific questions like this are much easier to answer. Let's tackle each one. All right. Is it better to join a club first? There are clubs popping up all over the country, which is really exciting to see. I remember a couple of years ago, there was one. Things have changed, and we have quite a number of clubs around the country that you can shoot at. Check out the Impact Dynamics website under the clubs, and you'll see all the clubs that we know about that are shooting some sort of PRS style match. However, you will know that there are a lot of gaps around the country of places where there could be ranges but aren't currently. That's just a sign of the sport growing, and we're still growing significantly. I'll probably predict that in next 18 months, so what does that make it, mid-2021, we're going to see a significant boost in the amount of clubs shooting precision rifle, practical rifle, whatever you want to call it, this sort of style of matches around the country. Check in a year and a half on that. Even if it's a 3, 4, 4-hour drive, 5-hour drive, I knew guys who back in the early days, they would happily drive 16 hours each way to shoot a match because that was the closest match to them. Still happens a little bit now. So if it's only 4 hours away, get up there, make an overnight stay of it or something along those lines. Get out and shoot one of those matches as quick as you can. You will end up with that list very easily, and it'll be a really good opportunity to train. You'll find that usually the club matches are a little bit more relaxed, a little bit lower key. The guys at the national level are still very helpful, but the time frames usually of the club matches are a little bit lower pace, so you can spend a little bit more time in between discussing and talking and all that sort of thing. The 5 points I gave you before are still very valid for club matches, though you can work on a number of those points through the match as it goes along. PRS matches, as in Precision Rifle Series matches that count for points for the championship, are available to all skill levels. If you have those 5 points least underway, should be nothing stopping you from getting involved. One of the real benefits is you'll get to see some of the best shooters in the country shoot. Just watching them will teach you heaps, but you'll probably be squatted with some of them. Go up and chat to them. They are pretty friendly people, and they will certainly let you know what they know, and if they can do anything to help you get better, they will. Pretty amazing bunch. For Precision Rifle Series matches, the national level matches, you absolutely must register. At the moment, they have a bit of a habit of selling out relatively quickly. As for clubs, It's going to vary a little bit. I can tell you from our club that if you rock up on one of the club day matches, which is the half-day matches, as long as you're there about an hour early, put your name down, go into the practice course system, and you'll be good to go. No booking required. We do some one-day shoots, and because they've got a catering element to them and the squad size is a bit larger, you do need to book in a little bit earlier than that, a few days in advance at the latest. Rocking up on the day for one of those won't guarantee you a spot. All right, on to another PRS-related question. Here we go. Hi Rusty, I've got my order in to attend the Madeira Cold Still Open and trying to organise travel, etc. Just wondering what the schedule is like for the Open so I can organise days off accommodation where necessary. It says the 27th to 29th, but wondering what the general rundown is, looking forward to it. Cheers, Ben. All right, Ben, thanks for this one, and you probably didn't expect it to see here in a Q&A. But you would have got a PDF a couple of days after this email with all the information for the match, and that's pretty standard procedure now. But I thought it might be a question that's in people's minds who haven't booked in for a PRS is, how does it all work? What's the structure of the event? So a PRS Australia match will generally look something like this. On the Friday of the match, there's no formal competition per se. There's usually a 4-hour, possibly more, practice session, usually in the afternoon. So you can get there, sign yourself into the range, get behind the gun, put some rounds down range, maybe run some barricades, that sort of thing. Get a little bit of practice in before the big day. Often there is a side match or some demonstration or something else that is good reason to be there. While that side match won't have any bearing on the overall match, there still may be prizes attached to it, so it's still worthwhile getting along. Now usually that side match is also available to stage officers as well as competitors. So if you are getting involved in one of these matches as a volunteer, make sure you're there on the Friday. If there's a side match going on, you could actually end up winning yourself something. Plus you get a chance to shoot. That's good. Saturday morning we'll start with a shooter's brief. Well actually it'll start with coffee. In fact, we should have coffee here. What? I'll be back. As I was saying, we go coffee and more coffee, shooter's brief, and then grab all your gear, head up to the line, and we start the match. The match will carry on for the majority of the day, as it does, and then it's dinner. And this is actually one of my favourite times of the entire weekend. You have good food, and you sit with a bunch of people, and you've made a bunch of friends from being in squads. So even if you're new, you would have met a bunch of people, and you've all got something common to talk about, what's happened through that day, and no doubt the stories are endless. Sunday morning, we'll have another shooter's brief, generally a bit shorter, obviously after coffee, and then proceed with the remaining stages of the match. Usually about an hour after the last gun comes off the line. That's when presentations will kick in, do the awards and prizes and all that sort of thing. And then I recommend, if you can hang around, do so. Go home if you need to, that's fine. But if you can hang around Sunday night, everyone's a little bit more relaxed. It's all done, dusted, can't change scores, can't shoot better the next day, nothing of that. Couple of beers, talk about the weekend, and it's a really good time to connect with people. Guys, if you have any more PRS-related questions, please hit me up. This topic that I guess I've got a good amount of knowledge with, and I'd like to actually bring in some of the key shooters to chat to you guys as well. So hit me up with a bunch of questions, and we'll see what we can do from there. Now, not all the questions I had were PRS-related. This is one from The Fridge. Hello, The Fridge. So many bad puns I want to make. Oh, I won't. Cool. I'm in the process of getting my firearms license. I've listened to your podcast. I'm almost caught up. I miss Greg. We all miss Greg. You can actually find him over on the Hunting HQ podcast if you haven't done so yet. He is living his best life over there. Anyway, my thoughts on first guns are the following. 1, some form of 22 LR, possibly a LA 101. I've actually got one, and I don't have much to say to throw you off one. They work great. They shoot well. Away we go. Number 2, something in 223 to varmint with. Foxes, cats, bunnies. Gives me the option to get some range with. I'd also begin reloading my own ammo at this point. All good options. 3, an LA 105 in 308. I chose 308 because it gives decent factory ammo, plenty of information / brass for reloading, and by the time the barrel on that is shot out, I would intend on moving to 6.5 Creed. A little bit more context, I intend on hunting in the southeast of South Australia, as well as playing in rimfire and PRS matches. A bit of pest control is also a possibility. Does this look like a good plan? Should I skip the 308 and head straight to the Creedmoor? More on that later. Is there something I am missing other than glass? When hunting deer in SA, is the 223 going to cut it, or am I going to need something with a bit more energy? Come back to that one. I keep leaning towards the Lithgow series of rifles because they're Australian and I've enjoyed the feel of the LA 102 in 223 that it's played with. All right, the fridge. Let's break this down. Regarding your suggestions on guns, as I said, the Lithgow 101, no problems at all. Good suggestion. Two, the 223 for varminting, really good option. Great option. You could stick with the Lithgow if you wanted to. The LA 102 you said you really enjoyed. I mean, grab one of those. Sounds good. That'll take care of everything you mentioned there. We'll talk about deer in a bit. I would suggest, however, getting a faster twist rate. Now, the good news here is that the LA 102 is a 1 in 9 twist barrel. So that's sort of heading in the right direction. Point number 3, the LA 105 in 308. Now, I'll just let you know that the fridge and I know each other. As you can tell, I know the fridge well. The fridge is a friend of mine from many years ago. Great to have him getting into this sort of thing. Anytime someone suggests that they're going to get a 308 over a 6.5 Creedmoor with a focus on PRS, I'm always curious in their reasoning. Because the fact of the matter is, if you run the numbers, it's a smarter choice to go for the Creedmoor. One of the points was decent factory ammo. And often people will say, oh, it's cheaper, it's much more better priced. Okay, let's have a little look here. We're going to go on to a website that I'm sure we all know, one of the big guys who sell ammo. Let's check out what they're doing. All right, let's look at some match ammo in 308. Okay, 308 Hornady match ammo. $56 roughly per 20. Let's look up Creedmoor match ammo. So Hornady factory ammo, match grade stuff, $44 per 20. I was expecting to be very similar, to be fair. That's actually cheaper than I thought. Let's just look around. There's some other options. Another similar one is $58. All right. Prices are pretty similar. But you'll say, Rusty, that's match ammo. I can't afford match ammo. Fair call. Let's go for 308 bulk. The only one I've found here is a 130 grain hollow point, which is not exactly what we'd use. But anyway, I'll use it for the example. $271 for 200 rounds. If we go for bulk Creedmoor, we can get 200 rounds of 140 grain hollow point bow tail in Hornady for $229 for 200. There is decent ammo available for 6.5 Creedmoor, and it is the same, if not cheaper, than equivalent 308 ammo. Now, I understand that'll vary store to store, and some stores are buying 308 in bulk and not buying. Anyway, the point being that it is available and it is very competitive price between the two cartridges. This was not true 4 or 5 years ago. You were paying $60+ for a packet of 6.5 Creedmoor ammo, packet 20. And that was basic stuff. And you were paying $35 for basic 308 ammo. It was much cheaper to run the 308. Things have changed. They do that. The other points that the fridge, hello fridge, brings up is there's plenty of information and brass for reloading. Now, granted, there are more pieces of information for 308 because it's been around longer, and there's a much wider variety of projectiles that you'd throw down a 308, from 90 grain through to 240 grain. Possibly more. The variation in projectile weights in 6.5 will range from about 85 up to about 147, although there's 150 plus on the horizon. And if you went for something round nose, 160 grain even. That's a smaller region. A lot less data needed to cover that information as opposed to what's going down to 308. Again, point being, there is heaps of information for 6.5 Creedmoor for reloading. Same with brass. So many options of brass for 6.5 Creedmoor. And comparable prices to 308. So the fridge, you asked, should you jump straight to the Creedmoor? Unless you've got a particular reason to go the 308, and there are some, but unless you've got a particular reason to go 308, and your focus is PRS, I'd jump in the 6.5 Creedmoor. Based on the information you give me so far, this is what I'm going to suggest. Grab the 22 and practice like hell. Put rounds downrange as much as you can. When appropriate, consider this as an option. A 2-3 setup for PRS. While you're finding your feet with it, it would be a really good option and a cheaper option to run 2-3. It's capable for PRS matches. Our club, for example, which I know is, I guess, your closest club, actually has a division for 223 in its general matches. So you'd be competing against other 223s. A 223 gun set up to shoot PRS will translate to varminting exceptionally well. This is where it's key to get a faster twist rate barrel so you can run the longer projectiles, which will give you a bit more distance out of your 223. Now, as for the deer hunting question, is 223 going to be okay for it? I was at the ADA training weekend the other weekend, and they've just got a general agreement, although there's nothing in legislation in South Australia, that a 243 is the minimum you should use. Now, part of that is drawn from other states having that as a minimum. So it's not silly to consider that you're in the southeast, you may cross the border to go shoot in Victoria. You'll want to comply with their laws. Perhaps a 243 is something to consider, depending on the type of deer you're going to be shooting. You may even look to step up to 270 and beyond. This is where the potential for 308 may be a really good consideration. What I'd also consider is the type of shooting you're going to do for those deers. If you're going to be stalking around, you will not want to be carrying a PRS dedicated gun. In that instance, a 308 in a lighter weight sort of gun could be a really sensible option. If you enjoy yourself in PRS and the long range world with the 223 and the 22 of course, then you could step up to a 6.5 Creedmoor or build something custom and go down whichever path you choose. Thanks to Fridge. I look forward to shooting with you shortly. Question here from Sean Webb. Sean is one of our Patreon supporters. Massive thanks to you, Sean. If you're interested in Patreon, jump onto the website. You can see which levels you want to support for the Impact Dynamics channel, for the various podcasts I'm involved with, or for the whole thing overall. Lots of options for you to choose from. Hey guys, you sound like you have a lot of fun. I really enjoyed your shows. When reloading, will different twist rates have anything to do with high pressures? I've recently changed a barrel from 12 to 9 twist in 223. Talking about that before. I've also fired some factory ammo for the brass and punched holes in primers. A faster twist rate will require more energy to go down it, and therefore, I guess, will lead to higher pressures. How much higher? That I don't know. Having said that, I don't think that is directly related to you punching primers on factory ammo. There's a range of things that you could be doing that is causing those primers to be punched. It could be the primers themselves. It could be your firing pin, which is probably likely. Either the tension of it, how much it comes out, or perhaps it's damaged and maybe it's a little sharper on the end. The list could go on and we'd need more information to do that. Got a suggestion for you though. Try a few different brands and product lines of ammo. See if that's consistent to the brand, to a particular product line, or to the whole lot. If it's just a brand or product line, steer clear of them or their primers, move across to something else. It's a pretty simple fix. If it happens to all of them, it's probably something to do with your gun. The firing pin needs to be looked at. If it happens with some of the ammo, but not others, and there's no sort of linkage between the brands, that's when you need to get your measuring tools out and find out what's different between the ones it did do and the ones it didn't do. That's somewhere I'd start, see where you go from there. One more thing, put up a post about shooting in summer versus shooting in winter. And I just thought I'd cover off on the results here. 37% of you said you want to shoot in the heat. You're mad. 63% of you wanted to shoot in the cool. Much more sensible people. You are my people. You 63%. Thanks for everyone who voted. We do polls on Facebook sometime. Not for anything significant, just mainly to use gifts that I've found. That's really the reason for it. Anyway, to those who like to shoot in the cold, it's too warm today. That's my point. I don't want to be shooting. I don't want to be filming in this sort of heat, let alone outside shooting a gun. Actually, if I could shoot a gun today, I would. Anyway, that's it, guys. Thanks so much. Make sure to subscribe. Hit us up with any more questions, comments, anything like that. Further clarifications or disagreeing with me, that is also totally fine. If you do like what we do and you want to get involved, Patreon is the best way to do it. We appreciate it significantly. Myself, the other guys on podcasts, and a few people behind the scenes. That would be awesome. We've got a few exciting plans to do in the future that we see how we go on that side of things. Anyway, that's enough. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you in the next one.